Is that like you to do something like that?
We do help.
You just find this random person on the street and say, come hang out with us?
Well, not typically. Yeah. We help a lot of people, but my motherly heart was like, there's no way she could take care of herself. I was like, I can't just leave her there.
How old were you at that time?
I was 8 years old, maybe almost 9.
So at 8 years old, you're living alone in an apartment.
Yes.
And you're getting your own groceries.
I actually didn't even go grocery shopping. My landlord took me to it was like a gas station or something just to pick up a couple things.
Well, where'd you get your food?
The Barnett's, they had given me like food that they didn't really eat, like canned foods and stuff like that.
And how long had you been in the apartment when you
It wasn't that long. I think maybe about a month and a half.
Okay. Well, I have a granddaughter about that age, and I can't imagine her living in an apartment by herself. What did they say to you when they took you over there and dropped you off?
They just said, we're going to get you an apartment and we're going to Canada.
Did you say, I'm 8?
I didn't know what to say. I didn't really know what was going on at first until like after it happened. Like I was confused.
Were you scared?
I was. I didn't really like want to leave the apartment, but I had to go to school.
So you went to school?
Yes.
How far was the school?
Maybe about a block away from the house.
So this is a new school?
Yes.
An adult school.
Christine, she had signed me up right after I moved in, after that day.
Chase, what do you got?
I think this video has the highest potential to be a verified case of duper's delight or duping delight, a phrase coined by Paul Ekman. And Phil says, you're living alone in the apartment at 8. There's a perfect smile, and which I think might be at the deception. And in people with little to no remorse or emotional affect, the thrill of getting away with something is more likely to occur here. So you're more likely to see duper's delight in people with this kind of problem, if it's present. Duping delight isn't necessarily conscious. It's more of a leakage of true emotion kind of coming onto the face. There's no mention of sadness, no mention of fear until Dr. Phil mentioned it. And even then it was only a confirmation, and there's no emotion here. The woman here, the caretaker, I don't know what her name is, has almost all 7 hallmarks that I teach to my clients and stuff that demonstrate something that I call hypersuggestibility, meaning that she's super vulnerable to influence. And just this morning, I made a post. I posted an article about all 7 of these indicators of hypersuggestibility in the Chase Hughes app, if you want to read about it. But one of these indicators is the most clear example I've ever seen. And all you have to do is look at her lower eyelids. And I'll leave it at that. Greg, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm not going to cover a whole lot of that, but I will say this. I do think exactly what you just said. The mother, this is the latest adopted mother, 100% believes this girl. You can see it. I mean, if there's a true believer in this entire thing, it's her. She goes on later to say that this girl has lost teeth since she's been with her, so that would be a certain age. And she just seems to not respond to some of the other accusations. Who cares about the stabbing and that? But the age piece. The age piece, for me, starts to look more and more unrealistic. But I will say, look, some kids, you talk about precociousness, Mark, there's lots of ways children are precocious. I knew a little bitty kid who lived near me who was 5 years old who could program a VCR. This is a long time ago, could program a VCR, cook, use a microwave at 5 years old. So people can do all that. It's a matter of how they're raised and what's going on with them. Even I learned how to fry eggs and bacon when I was 5. It's a different world. I'm not a young man. But the other piece here is that whole thing, that whole what we would call duper's delight, to me is nothing more than self-amusement or self-satisfaction with whatever it is. And I think amusement starts to show up. I'm going to give this person the benefit of a doubt. I'm starting to not believe the age thing, but I'm also on the fence about most of the other. Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, look, is it credible that an 8-year-old has the planning ability to be able to live alone, because that's what we're really talking about is can you plan? Can you think about the future? Can you organize yourself so that your demise doesn't happen immediately? Well, to your point, Greg, I've been on building sites in India with 8-year-olds building, who undoubtedly don't have parents with them and are looking after them themselves. Is she that precocious? I.e., does she have abilities and behaviors beyond her age, if she is at this point a young teenager? Well, it's possible. I mean, does an 8-year-old have the planning ability to live alone? I don't know. Could an 11-year-old go to university? I mean, seems incredible to me. But if we're going to say an 11-year-old can go to university, maybe we can say an 8-year-old under the right circumstances, a real survivor. And remember, kids are designed to survive. All of us that have had kids, we've all dropped them and they're still alive in the main. Okay. And you go, my God, it's built. They're just built to survive on the whole. Yes, some of them die. Absolutely. I appreciate that. But they survive we survive. If there's one thing we're designed for, it's staying alive and keeping going. Now, yeah, there can be some psychological trauma that comes with that survival. Absolutely. So, 8-year-old living in an apartment, I would be going, well, what's her IQ? Let's do an IQ test and see what her IQ is, because that's not the only indicator, but it would be a good indicator as to would she have the planning ability? And she's been taken into a family that clearly used to having other people around them of savant level IQ and ability. So there's some kind of gravitational force that brings that together. Now, I will say, love this show, fantastic. But the thunder and lightning over, how old were you? Thunder, lightning, black and white picture, subject looking askance. It's like, could you? And I understand. Look, I need to watch the adverts and get on to the next bit. I understand what's happening. I get that, but we've got to make sure that we take that out of the picture, because that is, emotionally manipulative. And good, it's entertainment. The fair is in town. I get it. But because the fair's in town, there's going to be some extremes going on here. Okay, so were you scared? I was. Yeah, and there is a potentially disdain, contempt, a wry smile, or duper's delight. Okay. So I get that as well, that there's some interesting information in there that tells you somebody could be being cheeky, deceptive, and enjoying that deception. At the same time, the idea that an 8-year-old could function on their own, it's a possibility like an 11-year-old could do advanced mathematics in a university, I would imagine. Look, and I mean, it's interesting how engaged Dr. Phil is here, because I think there's a story here of being left on your own, which is resonant with him. And so, it's an interesting subject for him to look at, because I think it's no secret that he's been through, not at that age necessarily, but some of those similar situations of having to, survive on your own. So, interesting that she's telling this story to him.
One of those tape replays.
Is that like you to do something like that?
We do
You
help.
just find this random person on the street and say, come hang out with us?
Well, not typically. Yeah. We help a lot of people, but my motherly heart was like, there's no way she could take care of herself. I was like, I can't just leave her there.
How old were you at that time?
I was 8 years old, maybe almost 9.
So at 8 years old, you're living alone in an apartment.
Yes.
And you're getting your own groceries.
I actually didn't even go grocery shopping. My landlord took me to it was like a gas station or something just to pick up a couple things.
Well, where'd you get your food?
The Barnett's, they had given me food that they didn't really eat, like canned foods and stuff like that.
And how long had you been in the apartment when you...
It wasn't that long. I think maybe about a month and a half.
Okay. Well, I have a granddaughter about that age, and I can't imagine her living in an apartment by herself. What did they say to you when they took you over there and dropped you off?
They just said, we're going to get you an apartment and we're going to Canada.
Did you say, I'm 8?
I didn't know what to say. I didn't really know what was going on at first until like after it happened. Like I was confused.
Were you scared?
I was. I didn't really like want to leave the apartment, but I had to go to school.
So you went to school?
Yes.
How far was the school?
Maybe about a block away from the house.
So this is a new school?
Yes.
An adult school.
Christine, she had signed me up right after I moved in, after that day.
I know I went short at the top, but let me say this about that. And I should have said this. I thought it was so obvious. A child, the reason an 8-year-old can't survive in that, what if somebody knocks on the door in the middle of the night? You don't know not to go answer the dang door. You may say, don't answer the door. What if they keep knocking? What if they say, oh, so-and-so sent me? Where are you going to get food? You've got to have somebody come and get you to take food if you're not to get some food. If you can't do it yourself, who's going to pay the bills? They'll say, whoever's going to pay the bills or whatever. The mail's going to come there. Who's going to bring the mail in? You've got to go out. If it's an apartment, you got to go out to one of those little boxes where all the mail is and get that. And it's too dangerous for an 8-year-old child. They don't know how to run the water, when to turn the bath water off and make sure it's not too hot. You know,
I got a counter for you.
on the 8-year-old.
I got a counter for you. When I was 8 years old, I could do something. When I was 8 years old, I could do something at least 2 of you can't now. I don't know about Chase, but I could change oil on a car when I was 8 years old because I lived with a person who taught me to do it.
Yeah, but the thing is, what I'm talking about is being in an apartment and something happening, anything happening at all.
Yeah, for sure.
The phone
if you
rings.
don't care,
It's not most of our lives. It's dangerous.
If you don't care if something happens to the kid, though, and you put them in there, and whether you believe they're 22 or they really are 22 is a different story. If you believe they're 22 and you put them there and say, hey, just do this, tell people you're 22 if they come and knock on the door, they could be put in that situation. That's my only pushback. Yeah. Scott, I think somewhere in between those two numbers is probably right. But.
Well, would they set the house on fire with a stove, leave it on? They don't know how to cook at 8. Some people say, well, I know how to cook, cheese toast or whatever. Maybe you do, but you can't eat cheese toast all day, every day, or grilled cheese sandwiches or cereal.
Yeah, I get your point.
Survival can eat the same thing day after day after day. Look, I'm not saying that this necessarily happened here, Scott, but the idea that an 8-year-old can't look after themselves under the right circumstances, yes, they can. Now, is it dangerous?
Right.
Well, yeah, they could die. They could some die in the process. Some would die for sure. Some would stay alive.
I think this one would
depends on their IQ.
I think this one would die in that process.
If she were 8, you mean? Yeah.
If she were 8,
What's funny from a biological perspective, children become independent even up to 100,000 years ago at age 7, which is now, ironically, why most divorces occur when children are around age 7. Because subconsciously the parents know that the child has become
at 7. They suddenly go. I remember it from myself. I remember going, I don't have to take instruction. I can decide what happens. And it was a huge relief at 7 going, I can decide. I can die due to my decisions for sure. But that 7-year-old adjustment is an amazing thing. Yeah.
Well, yeah. If you think back to your childhood, what you remember at 2 and 3 is not memory. It's something, but it's spotty little pieces. When you get to 8, you got a pretty clear memory of what 8 was.
I don't know what world you guys are living in. If you think an 8-year-old can live by itself in an apartment, when it goes outside,
I've seen them.
When
build
the child,
in
I know
India.
when the child goes outside, somebody could take it. He can get hit by a car. He can get run over.
Sure,
so many things could happen.
Yeah,
I mean,
data point.
It's crazy talk. You could never. I would dare you, Mark. You would leave your 8-year-old son.
Because I'm a good parent.
Right.
There's the point.
Okay, but what I'm saying is,
and I don't live in an emerging economy.
You don't have the confidence of your 8-year-old staying in an apartment by itself for 2 days, not checking in on it. You wouldn't do that. Because
I wouldn't do that to them. Could they survive? Possibly.
No.
Well, let me give you a data point because we're going to keep doing this if we don't get a data point. The parents lived very close and visited and brought stuff.
Yeah, that's hard. Well, of course, obviously it's horrible parenting, but you can't, an 8-year-old, and she goes to school every day. She's going to have medical things to do, doctor's appointments with, if you have a situation like that.
Adult school. Yeah, for sure. You would think, here's my thing. Somebody should have noticed at adult school, this is an 8-year-old.
Exactly. How can you read adult books when you're 8 years old? What's going on, man? That's what I'd want. That's I
don't know. How can you go to the university when you're 11?
Well, you're a genius.
Yeah, I think we're going to chase our tail, which makes it a great show.
So, okay. So
that's a great show.
It's not impossible.
I quit. I quit. This is it, man. I've hit the wall.
We're going to have to clean that one up.
No, I'm leaving it in.
That's good.
Just like
good
it is.
Discussion. It means everybody's going to be doing this,
That's why the show's there.
Yeah, we knew that when we started. Mark's like, I don't know about the age.
That's why the show's there.
If you like this video, get the full body language breakdown and analysis on our main channel by clicking this video right here.